I've decided that politics would be the route for me to be able to achieve those type of ambitions that I had for myself.
Speaking of like your role in the city, a lot of people just like when they vote, they don't vote, locally. They always think, we'll do governor, we might do mayor, but they don't really think about like city council and like their role in the city. So like tell us about just some of the things that will affect a person on like the local level than just the federal level.
You want to say that you have equity in shaping the direction of where you live in the locality that represents you. Hi, this is District Leader William Smith from East Harlem, and you're here with Two Peas in a Pod, powered by Young Atlas.
All right, yo, what's good? This is Two Peas in a Pod. Well, 1 P today. My co-host had a family emergency. She got like 8 kids.
Wow.
Yeah, y'all about the same age, 8 kids and a grandkid. But she had a little family emergency today, so she couldn't make it. So it's just me today. And I'm with District Leader William Smith. We can't call you Will because the Will Smith's already taken.
Well, his name is, just for clarification, his name is Willard.
Willard? Oh,
Willard
yeah.
Carroll Smith.
Willard. I forgot this. Why do they always think it's William when it's Willard?
Well, because usually someone has a name William, they cut it short.
Yeah, I would go by Will if I was named Willard. Definitely. So we're here with District Leader from Harlem, William Smith. So first question straight off the bat, like what got you into politics? You go into a school, any school, you poll like any of the kids, like what you want to be when you grow up. Not a lot of them are going to say like a politician. So like what made you decide to like, you know what, I'm going to be for the people. I'm going to be a politician.
Well, I was always inspired by the public servants that at the time that was serving us. I remember being a young child seeing our first black mayor, Mayor David Dinkins.
Yeah.
And I remember I was at sleepaway camp and he stopped by. I guess he was in the Hamptons probably for, a fundraiser, right? Which I'm able to figure out. That's why they bounced around, those type of areas and now still fundraising, networking, and building relationships. So when I thought about, what type of career would I want to have for myself, be able to use my network, right? Use my people skills, and also think about how I'm able to create public good, public services that route. And because I studied political science and administration at City College.
What, the CCNY?
Yeah, that's right. Proud City College alum.
Really? Proud City College alum? I heard that.
Yeah, and I went to A. Philip Randolph Campus High School, so it's right on the campus.
Right on the campus, so you just move right next door?
Yeah, so a lot of strong love for West Harlem in the 7th Assembly District.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that was the 7th. What district are you in?
So I'm the district leader in the 68th Assembly District, which is East Harlem.
East Harlem?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So that's the northern. So in regards to the political parties, the way they're broken up, and I'll segue back to the closing out the answer to your first question. The political parties, right? And it's so interesting. There's so many different pieces to it, and there's so many different levels. Mm-hmm. That's what greatly intrigued me about getting involved in finding out what would be my niche to make a difference, right? So I decided to take a route of engaging people around political education and getting involved with the Democratic Party in our county, Manhattan. Right. Mm-hmm. So as a district leader, I'm the district leader as part of the Democratic Party of Manhattan. In each assembly district, so right now we have 10 assembly districts in the county of New York, right? Manhattan.
New York County, Manhattan, yeah.
We have 10 assembly districts. So the different assembly members that represent us in the state legislature that are broken up into boundaries. I'm in the 68th. We're right now in the 70th. But within the political party, we're broken up into what we call executive parts, or what some would just say our political districts, right? Our zones, our boundaries, our wards. The areas that we cover. So I'm the Executive Part D, which is the most northern part of the 68th Assembly District in East Harlem. There's a northern part. So I border a lot of the pieces with Central Harlem.
Central Harlem, so where you at, like one?
So I run from 106th Street now.
106.
5th in Madison, all the way up to 128th Street.
128th?
Yeah, and then on the park, from all the way down to Park Avenue on the downtown side.
That's not...
So it's a big territory. It's a big
territory.
Yeah. Yeah. So, just being involved and always striving to be a leader that had a big area to cover. I've decided that politics would be the route for me to be able to achieve those type of ambitions that I had for myself.
You was like class president in high school?
No. I wasn't really involved in. I was not involved in politics in high school. Probably when I was in junior high and middle school, I did the class representative role and stuff like that. So
you just picked out lunch? What y'all eat for lunch? We got gym Tuesdays.
Yeah. Some programming recommendations and things like that. Yeah, when I was at that age. But I've been following politics since I was 8. But like I said, I got to meet David Dinkins when I was at Kent when I was 6.
So what was the big political story at 8 that just sparked your interest?
Oh, it was probably when Bill Clinton was inaugurated as president on January 20th of 1997. So I had the privilege of being able to attend. My grandmother took me there for my 10th birthday. That was really
great birthday gift.
Yeah,
DC,
man.
DC had yeah.
It jump started obviously the interest and just thinking about how our country is led and what are the different routes to enact change.
Speaking of your role in the city, a lot of people just when they vote, they don't vote locally. They always think we'll do governor, we might do mayor, but they don't really think about city council and their role in the city. So tell us about just some of the things that would affect a person on the local level than just the federal level.
Well, it's important for us to vote in every election, and I'll detail why. So it's important that we vote in every election, for one, because you want to make sure your voices are heard.
Yeah.
And you want to say that you have equity in shaping the direction of where you live in the locality that represents you, right? Mm-hmm. But aside from that, in terms of voting for governor, right?
Yeah.
In terms of the Democratic primary, because then there was an update to the Democratic Party in our composition. So every assembly district, like I mentioned in the past, we have 10 assembly districts in our county. And within the political party, in order for someone to become a civil court judge, right? Mm-hmm. District leaders, we have to vote on who the Democratic Party will nominate, who will endorse and say that's the best candidate, right? I think that's very important.
That's really important, yeah.
These are candidates that, yeah.
We could just not vote and then they just nominate anybody.
And you could have the wrong person that ends up in civil court that's either assigned for the weekend in criminal court, right? Who may not have the right empathy or have the right perspective to understand some of the challenges of the people that may be detained and unfortunately have to go through the court system. So you want to make sure you put the right candidates.
Oh, especially for that.
So you see that. So that's why it's important. Like this year, June 27th is the Democratic primary, where I'm up for re-election as a district leader. But it's important for everyone to engage in that process because they'll also be signing petitions to nominate those candidates to be on the ballot for civil court.
So any law, would there be any laws or anything that could be passed on June? We said 27th.
Yeah. So there's So in terms of the citizens' ability to enact laws, that would be a ballot referendum, right? I'm not aware of any ballot proposals right now, but bear with me. There may be some updates I'm not aware of. But
anything can happen between now and June.
Yeah, well, I have to see because there's also signature requirement. But there's an ability from a signature perspective. If you get a certain requisite number of signatures, you can push for a ballot referendum. And then we can have follow-up conversation about ways for people to think about doing that. That's important.
Yeah, that's really important. So New York City is kind of changing now with a lot of the cannabis laws. How do you feel about it? Where we got a lot of smoke shops, people are just smoking weed everywhere. It's this utopia, but at the same time, it's all right, we kind of have to have some rules and regulations of what we can do and can't do. You could be at a job and someone said it's legal now, I could smoke, but technically you can buy a beer, but you can't drink it at work.
Yeah, because of the open container.
Yeah.
Because of the local laws. So, maybe we should start thinking it's hard to think about that, right? Think about that. How do you enforce that? I think maybe in the interim, when we think about what the rules or enforcement capabilities would look like in terms of regulating that, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe just think about promoting some best practices to the community.
What about you see a lot of people that are trying to get become cannabis entrepreneurs and trying to get their license? What are some ways can the politicians in New York educate people of all right, I don't want to have an illegal smoke shop. I'd rather open up my own dispensary, but I don't know how.
Well, okay, so this is the cannabis topic is a very interesting topic. It's very important in terms of us thinking of pathways for our communities to build wealth, right? Mm-hmm. And be able to create a runway for themselves as an entrepreneur. So cannabis obviously is a great opportunity right now. It's very important right now for us to build out platforms for the community to get better educated about the whole process, about how a regulation is created, how the laws are drafted. There's a need for a strong understanding of civics because it's the state legislature that enacted the laws and enabled for us to be talking about cannabis now, right?
Yeah.
So we have to, before we start with anything, we have to have a better understanding of government and how government represents us and how it regulates industry. And it regulates the industries that we're looking to get involved in terms of entrepreneurs being able to get access to the information. The information is on the Cannabis Control Board website in terms of all the latest regulations. But it'd be great, and I'm thinking about ways on how I can better educate the community, about that, because it's really important.
Everyone's trying to get into business, but just don't know how, and they be like, "Oh, we could just open up a smoke shop." They're not going to do nothing, but it's technically illegal.
Yeah, you have to have a license, right? And the Department of Health has to, ensure that you're complying with all of the same rules. No different than if you were to have a nail salon and any other
barbershop,
type of. Yeah. So it's the same, the same rules. So it's about educating people about, what are the rules in place that shape that whole process.
That's really true. So you represent East Harlem, and being in the city, you're a New Yorker at first. You always hear about the reputation of East Harlem. You go to the Pathmark, you got all the junkies there, a lot of rats. Yeah. It's dirty, but they don't really hear about the rest of what is your vision so we can get rid of that stigma of just East Harlem. You got great restaurants like Rio's, Ricardo's, Patsy's. They used to have the Kingdom tournament. Mm-hmm. You got great residents 1309 5th, 1295 5th.
The Taft Houses, we got Clinton Houses, Lehman Houses, Jackie Robinson Houses, 1775 Houses, AK Houses, MS Houses. Yeah. And I have to shout out the areas of my territory,
all the
Schaumburg, Lakeview, but the other nearby developments. So we have a lot of great people. It's a community full of vibrant personalities and energy. But we do have a lot of static on a regular basis, unfortunately, because there's a lot of challenge in that community. There's a lot of good. There's a lot of positivity, but there's also a lot of negativity there as well. Because people are just struggling. Tough time right now.
Nah, inflation is crazy. Eggs is $10.
Yeah, so it's hard to survive. So I get hard for somebody to have a good smile, have a smile on their face, and to be positive and have good mental health if they're struggling to survive.
Yeah, and then people who struggle to survive, they're gonna turn to other things. So
unfortunately, that's something that we think about, because you mentioned the cannabis, the proliferation of all the cannabis locations, right? Mm-hmm. We're dealing with that, and we're dealing with the open air drug use in the community, which is making it difficult in terms of feeling safe to walk around in East Harlem. Yeah. Differently than it did before.
Because now you kind of have that give and take, where it's it is this weed utopia, cannabis utopia, but at the same time you got a parent I don't want my kid walking around. It's everyone on the block smoking weed.
Yeah, well, I think it's just too much. It's all important to have things in moderation and be mindful where you are. That's why I mentioned the best practices, right? Mm-hmm. Just educating the community about, if you're going to, in terms of also being mindful, what are the regulations in the city, right? How close can you be to entrance of a building when smoking? Or a school. Yeah, so just think, and then also personally, just being mindful of that. If you were to smoke a cigarette, would you really want to smoke in front of a school?
Yeah.
No.
Nah, not really.
Or a cigar, because everyone may not like cigar smoke.
Or the smell of it.
Thank you. So, just I think we just need to instill in everybody, have a little bit more empathy. But that's part of the challenge of coming out of the pandemic. Everybody was very focused on them because we all had to survive. Yeah. And now we have to remember that we have to come together as a village again.
Speaking of village, how can we bring New York more closer or more together? We feel we got a lot of people moving in. A lot of people feel they're being forced out. You got Columbia expanding. How could we make New York feel togetherness, village? This is my neighbor. Because a lot of New Yorkers just I'm just looking out for me. Yeah,
like I said, it's hard. You have to survive. It's tough surviving in this concrete jungle if you don't have the right tools and support to help you get through the challenging times. And unfortunately, a lot of our residents have not had that support that they needed. Dealing with that lack of support at the same time, there's all these changes happening around them without them being able to capture any of those changing those changes into opportunities for themselves. So when we think about, you mentioned Columbia and other universities that are, obviously we want institutions of higher education in our communities, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're going to expand in our communities, we want to have a seat at the table as well.
Feel included,
we want access to those institutions provided we meet the right criteria. And if we don't meet the criteria, help us build a pathway to meet that criteria. So the answer may be no right now. How do we get it to a yes for every individual in our community, whether it be in that institution or other institutions that are in this community? So it's important, all of those schools, burdens on them to make sure that they think about how they maximize the community benefits agreements that they sign and they agree to when they look to expand into these communities, and be mindful that we're your partners.
Yeah, exactly. Partners.
We're not neighbors that, you just have to sit with us. No, you should want to break bread with us. You should want to work with us and give us the same opportunity you would give your own part of your own village.
Because I feel like Columbia feels like the neighbor that just borrows sugar and just keeps it. Like, let me get some sugar. Yeah, all right, cool. You're my neighbor. And it's like, nah, it's my sugar now. Like,
yeah, well, that's important, right? Because it's important for us to be sure we get that equity and we advocate. And, to be honest with you, a lot of our community, because like you mentioned, everyone's, silo focused. Right?
Which we can't. Great way of saying selfish. Yeah. Very, very politically savvy. I see you.
So, like I said, when you're getting through a pandemic, you're going to have those moments when that happens. But now that we're out of that, right? We have to wake up. We have to organize. We need to step to the table. We need to constantly engage this issue, because it's not just Columbia, right? I mean, that's very important, right, for this locality. Don't get me wrong, I'm not diminishing it, but it's not just about them. It's about all the other areas. It's about this area, but it's about the precedent that it sets. If we're not able to advocate for the right piece of equity, right, in terms of community benefits, then if that doesn't work, then what happens when real private industry comes in?
And just say, I'm going to buy that.
There you go.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure we get ourselves empowered, get ourselves educated, and we're ready for the battles that are ahead in terms of just making sure we're able to stay here. Because economically and financially, pathway is not there for us right now, is it? Based on the current trajectory.
Got a good point, yeah.
So we have to get ready and be prepared. We all have to level up. I have to level up. I have to improve my capacity to lead, improve my capacity to help and support and energize all of those that are out here in the community, right? But the community has to do their part too.
So what skill sets should a person have if they wanted to become a good politician?
Well, for one, remember, if you're involved in politics, it's two separate things. Are you a public servant or you're a politician? Right? So a politician may be more focused on just dedicate their time more to the political strategy and implementation and executing things, just making moves, getting things done, getting people endorsed, all of that stuff. A public servant balances out serving the community, representing the community, advocating for them, right? But also leveraging the political interests to their benefit. And that's really important. How do you help the community benefit?
So let's talk about education. Do you feel like the school system was better when we were younger, or more better, really?
Well, I'll be honest. I haven't seen a homework assignment from a public school since while we graduated high school in 2005. So but when I remember, I saw some young children from unnamed charter school, right? I think they were in middle school, and the homework did not look quite challenging, right? The way it was when we were coming up and being educated.
Yeah, homework back in the day was crazy, 9-10 assignments from 5 different teachers. This is due that day. I feel like I got too much. I feel like in I'm gonna say, because I went to Catholic school, junior high school, I got so much homework. I had no free weekends.
But just think about how you get graded on the do now. Remember, you get the do now, you come into class, and you have an assignment the minute you walk in.
Yeah, first day of school.
And the teacher tell you you're going to get graded on the do now. I want to know, is that still around? Is that level of rigor still there? I don't know if it's there now, because technology is making it much easier for the youth to access information, but I just don't think the hunger is there for them to knowledge, to skill up from, do the young children know how to write in script?
Probably not.
Okay.
I don't think they know how to tell time from an actual, what is it, not an analog clock. I don't think they know how to do that.
Other problem is when you think about Grammarly. Does that help our youth in order to learn how to write a decent letter?
No. I also feel like they're adding more of the internet into the dictionary, and I'm not I'm kind of opposed to that, because we was taught to talk this way, but it's they're just adding that on.
Yes. There's the simplification of the English language I would never support, right? Because when you have those moments, you have conversations and you're talking with your relative, grandma, talking with your mother, and you use a term in the incorrect way, you always embrace the correction because you're like, wait a minute, I never knew about that word.
People will go like me. Was like, nah, it's actually I. You're not supposed to use me first. See, yeah.
Yeah. Also, a lot of the kids are using Chat GPT right now to do their homework and all that kind of stuff. It's getting crazy.
Which I don't understand. I mean, when I was in high school, we had Spark Notes, right? Remember that when you read those? But the thing is, maybe that
helped out a lot of homework assignments.
Yeah, but the teachers knew though.
Yeah,
they knew you were using those. You'd have to still read the book, and still have some of the key themes. But that was meant to be a guider.
Yeah,
you still had to sit at the table late at night and write that essay, for the next day, because we all used to do it last minute, Yeah, and I remember I remember when I was working a few years ago, and I worked in the state assembly for the member for Harlem at the time, and we had some interns. I said, and I gave them an assignment. I said, I need you to type this out, sir. I need you to type this out. He looked at me like I was speaking another language. And I'm like, do you know how to type? No. Do you know how to type without looking at the keyboard? No. So I'm like, that's a basic skill that you need in the computer age. You're going to get a technical job. They want you to type, and they want you to type at a certain speed.
Yeah.
So, that's a problem. So to answer your question in terms of the education system, I just wanted to give you some examples, but it needs to be strengthened. It needs to be strengthened from, like we talked about civics, right? People understand in government how to navigate it so they can effectuate change. But most importantly, how do we empower our children to have the skills to be able to navigate in the information age? Are we helping them with STEM the way we need to?
What is STEM?
Science.
Science.
I'll put the burden on you.
English. I forgot what the T is. I definitely look up STEM because I forgot what STEM.
But
the science
English, and mathematics. That was always a challenging course. I know for me, right? But I've realized as I've grown professionally how much of a disservice it was for me not to make sure I had a solid foundation in that. Not to say that my high school didn't give it to me, but did I spend enough time studying and mastering chemistry?
No, I didn't.
Did I do it with math and algebra?
Were you one of those guys that say, I'm not trying to be a chemist, so why am I learning chemistry?
I think lacking, because I did not grade well in some of the science in chemistry, I remember.
Chemistry, yeah. After bio, everything was like, nah, I'm not with it.
Yeah, the living environment, Regents, you had to get through that. For those in New York City, we had to finish that Regents exam. I know they still have to take that, right?
I don't know. I heard they don't have to take it no more. That's what my niece, I think my aunt and my niece told me they don't take Regents no more. And I was so upset. Yeah.
After all the stress that we went through in the summertime before school was over, having to study and prepare for those exams.
Math A, Math B.
Oh boy!
If you wanted like the advanced honors, you had to take Spanish.
Yeah, the Spanish Regents. Yes.
After junior year, I had to take.
And all of the science.
Yeah, all the sciences. What else? You had global. Your second year, sophomore year was global.
Yeah, that's right. The next year is American history.
US history. Yeah. You were shooting high school. Yeah, I was shooting dice in high school.
No, I knew I couldn't play games when I was in high school. I was raised by my grandmother.
Oh, so
sometimes she picked me up.
Oh, she wanted,
She had a car, so she would pick me up some days.
Really?
Yeah, she wasn't playing games. She said to make things easier also for me, but I also knew she was keeping an eye on me, making sure I was handling business.
She didn't want you hanging out. No, you got to go study.
Well, no, because when you think about, to follow up on the beginning question, what inspired me to be involved in public service. But I knew that when I was a young man, I wanted to be successful in any category. And I was fortunate to be exposed to a lot of successful people, to be around a lot of successful people. So that inspired me to make sure I knew when I was in high school, no, I don't really want to party. I want to be on a path so that way I can buy a Mercedes, right? That was the materialistic side at the time. Now as I'm older, I'm thinking about...
You can't say that too much as a politician. I want to buy a Mercedes.
No, well, I don't know if I agree with that. If you desire a certain item, right, and you work hard for it, and it's something that you want for yourself, why not get it for yourself?
But you always see how they'll people, the media will try to smear a politician. He has goals for himself, and it's like, well, this personally coming from me, I worked for this.
That's right. They don't, they frown upon any displays of success that are not, traditional to that particular field, right? And I don't know if I agree with us, following that. If I look at myself as a leader and I want to set an example, right, then thinking about how in politics, right, politics is perception, not how do people digest it? What is it really to them? Not what other people would say. Pillars of success are having a good job, right? Being well clothed, right? Having a home for yourself, supporting your family. Unfortunately, in our materialist society, maybe might be having a certain type of car.
Or watch,
or going on a certain type of vacation. So I'm of the mindset then what you do is you set the example for those as best as you can and empower them with the skills so they can do it for themselves as well.
I wish more people would realize that, because if they see you with a Mercedes-Benz and a watch, it's like, he's not doing anything for the community. And it's like, yo, how do you know that? Like,
yeah, well, I don't have a Mercedes, right?
Not yet.
But I know when I was younger, if someone had that, they must be doing something right.
Yeah,
right?
And I wish more people would like see like the motivation. Like, yo, this guy came from here and he has a good job. He has a nice house. He provides for his family. Instead of just like, I can't stand him because he has a nice watch, car, doing great for himself.
But when you think about when someone has that moment, right, they're lacking some motivation. They're lacking ambition for themselves. And I've been thinking about, when I've talked to the various leaders in the community, what type of programming we need to think about in the community around motivation. How do we build leaders in all levels? And I think about some of the hip-hop references, right? I always use this all the time when I talk to people. I think about a line from Rick Ross, and he says, all bosses just come in different positions, right? So even if you are a janitor, right, or custodian rather,
they get bread.
They get money, they get a pension, right? If you work for the city and you're a custodian for the city, it's very respectable work. Yeah. And the thing is, in our society, we've cultivated a culture of frowning upon people who work in the blue collar. Why? You can still have those same examples of success working the blue collar, or whether you work in the white collar. It's about how you manage your money, how you manage yourself, how much sacrifice are you willing to make in order to get yourself to the next level. And doing that does not require you to have any particular position. Require that you have the right resolve and you have the right character and the right determination. That can come in all shapes and sizes. So if the community better recognize that within themselves, then they won't look at someone who has a Benz and says, "Oh, look at that person. Oh, what do I need to do to get that?"
I wish we have more of that mindset. Like, speaking of Harlem, like, what are like some things you would like to see? Like, they always talk about like diabetes being high, obesity, asthma. Like, what are some of the things you would like to see that's like vegan, like restaurants, more smoothies, more like juice bars, like ways to like promote health? Because everyone says like, New York City, especially like uptown, we don't really eat the best because we don't have access to like those foods. So, like, what are some of the things you would like to see in Harlem, Bronx, or just within the city?
Well, shout out to the BX. Always shout out our neighbors.
I'm from the BX, so
you already know. When I think about the cost, right, to eat healthy. So, when I've had my own personal moments of wanting to budget better, but also eat better, right? And I'm really motivated. How am I able to do that when it costs $15 to get a smoothie and something else? Right.
Downtown is like $15 for a smoothie and another $10 if you want a salad.
There you go.
That's $25.
So I'm like, at this point, I'm thinking from a legislative perspective, maybe there needs to be like a sales tax suspension on healthy foods or something for a certain amount of time. Or maybe we need to reduce the taxes on healthy foods. Like the sales tax. Yeah. And there needs to be, or maybe there shouldn't be sales tax on healthy foods to encourage people to do that. There needs to be better pathways for those who may be of limited income, right? Who may have SNAP, what some in the community still use the word terminology, food stamps.
Yeah, food stamps.
Right? How can those recipients be able to get an entire refrigerator full of healthy food and not deplete all of their benefit card completely? Are there pathways for them to do that?
So
the burden's on, our elected representatives in the state legislature, right, our state assembly member, our state senators, to think about that and to try to initiate, not only have dialogues around it, take some incremental approach to addressing it. So, maybe start off with a sales tax holiday. For this weekend, at the beginning of the month, there's no sales tax in any health food store that you go to.
That would be beautiful, yeah.
To encourage that. Or there needs to, or tax breaks for those businesses so that way they can maybe find some type of way to either freeze their prices or cap their prices or have better benefit programs for seniors, have deals for the youth to come and get a smoothie. Come with $5, you can get a decent smoothie.
Yeah, that would be perfect. $5 for a smoothie, that would be perfect. Yeah.
So it's because
I feel like a burger and fries should not be like cheaper than just a salad and a water. Like a salad and a water shouldn't be like $12, but I can go to McDonald's and buy like 5 burgers, 2 things of big fries and a soda and pay like the same amount.
Yeah, we want to set it up where, that's the healthier food is the cheaper option and the better option.
Exactly.
And then also those fast food restaurants need to think about how they diversify their menu offerings.
Yeah.
And we need to talk to those corporations, McDonald's, Burger King, Chipotle, all of the big fat, Checkers. Yeah. All the big fast food. And
I don't think anyone should be eating Checkers in 2023.
Well, I don't want to. Well, I don't want to. Well, for one thing, that's a location that's in our community that promotes jobs. So I don't want to discourage people from going to a restaurant. But I will say we want to promote healthier alternatives to that, right? But everyone should have the freedom of choice. If they want to get some French fries and they're having a bad day or a good day, they can go get themselves that. But we want to encourage them to say, you don't want to do that all the time. Moderation.
So what is a day of your life like? Like, what is a Monday like?
A Monday?
Yeah.
So in certain days, it can be very hectic. I've had days where I'll give you an example. A few weeks ago, I took one of my mentees on a district walk with me. So it started off, it involves stopping by, doing site visits to different locations in my political district, meeting with the tenant president, even if it's an impromptu meeting, and just saying hello, how's everything, getting a rundown, what's going on, maybe visiting the property manager for that particular property, finding out how I can maybe support and work with them, and just taking visits to different locations. Also liaising with members of my political network, because we talk on a regular basis in terms of how we cultivate the next set of events, think about our strategy, and just keeping ourselves informed on how things are evolving in the community from a political perspective. So it's a lot of walking up and down avenues, visiting at least maybe about 5 or 6 properties in a day, but doing it on foot.
On foot?
Yeah, on foot.
So you're in shape.
Well, I need to be in better shape. I need to put in some more work.
Just walking around hall, that's nice.
But a district leader is supposed to be on the ground, should be on the ground, and at least the resident leaders, the block leaders, the people that are the leaders for that area, should at least hear from you on a regular basis and see your face.
How long have you been district leader?
So I've been a district leader since July 2021.
What was you doing before that?
Oh, I was a member of the Democratic Party. I was just an election district captain, so I was a county committee member. So I was one of 3 slots in the Democratic Party just for my particular development. But I was also the vice chair of a community advisory board for Metropolitan Hospital.
Really? So they had to vote to get you to be
district leader? Yes.
Yeah. And you won. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, that's nice.
Okay. It was a great privilege. I'm really very proud that I was able to achieve that accomplishment. But it's only possible because of the support of my residents in East Harlem. So I want all of them to know how thankful I am to them for this opportunity.
You got to point to the camera. Thank you, East Harlem.
Thank you, East Harlem, for all your support.
So what is your relationship like with the mayor of New York, Mayor Adams?
Well, the mayor has had, for one, I want to thank him for his approach to just thinking about highlighting all the different issues that are happening in our city, right? Because when you come in as a mayor of the largest municipality in the country, right, it takes a little time to kind of wrap your head around all the different issues and get the lay of the land. So I think he's done that, right? And he's taken a lot of great policy stances on different issues. But I attended a meeting of different elected officials at Gracie Mansion, and I reiterated to the mayor they wanted to know some 3 key issues in our community. And I stressed that there was a need for addressing public safety and ensuring that our police and the judicial system communicated to the public that you have to adhere to the laws. You have to follow the rules. And if you do not follow the rules, there are consequences for not complying with those rules, and being able to figure out ways to better educate the community about what are the laws in place that you have to follow, right? What I'd always talk about, just civic education. But mostly ensuring that when we escalate issues to our local precincts and our higher representatives, that there is a sustained response. We don't need to talk about trespasses in a public housing development and you say, okay, I'm going to send a unit to go there on Tuesday, and then they're back on Wednesday.
Yeah,
that doesn't
solve anything. Yeah.
No, and it does not instill confidence in the community that its representation is doing its job. So I had to make sure I passed that along to him, So you can hear that how important that is. And also mentioning the fact that we have NYCHA developments, especially in East Harlem, that will be transitioning from Section 9, right, public housing funding, to Section 8. And yes, they will be able to, under that new funding regime, they would be able to get better, to be higher access to funding, better repairs and all of that. That's all well and good. But you're still transitioning a program that's been around for how many years to a new system. That makes people very uneasy. So helping people understanding how to navigate that, and helping people understand what is a bill. How is a bill drafted? How did this change? How was it possible for NYCHA to eventually allow a property manager to manage its property? What laws had to be enacted to do that? So in educating those communities about that is very important. So I wanted to make sure we stressed that to them.
And how did you respond to that?
No, there was a positive feedback in terms of that issue. I think everyone could understand that's really important. And his staff is working in terms of examining civic education and making sure that more of our students have understanding of the government and how to navigate it.
So this is a fun question I want to ask, because you always see people always made jokes and see the mayor out, but the mayor is a bachelor. I think he's a bachelor. And
I'm not.
But he's always out. He's at some of the trendy spots. He goes to concerts. He goes to the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
And I always would think wouldn't you want your mayor to do that? It's New York City. He kind of has to I don't think he's tied down to anything. He kind of can, on his free time, engage in some of the spots he wants to. Do you think he gets kind of a bad rap for that? He's going out a lot?
Yeah, I don't know if it's fair, because the thing is that people fail to realize how much sacrifice a person has to make in order to, for one, put themselves in position to be on that pathway to become a mayor of a city. And the fact that he's been a public servant for so long, right? So there's always been sacrifices have always been calculated in. Now he's in a position now, right, where he has to continue to make those sacrifices, but he's in a key leadership position. So all of us need to see him at all different times. So the fact that you see him at night going to the different venues and supporting local businesses, that's a good thing.
It's a great thing, yeah.
Because it shows that he's human.
Yeah.
He's a person like the rest of us, right? He was a regular person before he became mayor. Be a regular person when he's termed out.
He's termed out, yeah.
But you want your leader you want to know that your leader goes to the same type of restaurant that you go to, because he's one of you. He's just in a position of leadership meant to advance the public good.
What are some of the ways we can improve the relationship between the inner city and the police? Because you got people that would be I can't trust the police with anything, and then you got the police that they could just feel they could just run up in the neighborhoods or run roughshod, or just a lot of people really in the inner city just do not trust the police. So how can we fix that relationship?
But we have to think about also, there's been we've gone through a lot in these communities, right?
Yeah.
So everyone's a little tired.
Yeah, really tired. Yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah, they're frustrated with dealing with the crime on this side, and they're frustrated when there's been instances on this other side where youth of all walks of life have had unfortunate encounters
with the police.
Okay, but at the end of the day, we still got to push forward, right? And I bring it back again to the education piece again. Understanding we need to ensure that our community has a better understanding of the bureaucracy of the NYPD, right? Do you understand the structure of the police? Do you understand the levels? Do you understand what work goes in for an officer to get there? I think it's important for us to start thinking about how we educate the community about that. Because then if they understand, you don't trust anything you don't understand.
Yeah, that's true.
So if we can instill that understanding in our community members, that's one incremental way to chip away at that lack of confidence, right? That's one step. Another step is the NYPD needs to get more out into the community. Even though they're out there, we need them more. But there's not enough staff for them. I'm not defending but there's not enough staff in the NYPD. They're having challenges in terms of replacing, the retirees with new recruits. So we need to work on addressing that as well.
How can the city make policing better? Just of people feeling more confident, more safer around police.
Well, the thing is, I think, like I said, getting out more into the community. on a consistent basis. Consistency is what instills confidence, especially in this community and in New York City. You got to show me before show me before you tell me.
Yeah, they got to do that.
Yeah, so they have to show a little bit more. And how do they do that? Let people see the human side more. And I've interacted with the community affairs officers in different offices. They have their human side, but because they're in their position of authority, kind of hard to it's hard to differentiate between, okay, I'm part of keeping you safe, but also I want you to instill the confidence you can talk to me.
Yeah.
So educating the police on finding ways to better communicate with the community, and that being an evolving discussion is really important. Because then once the community feel that they're more relatable, right? Even though I think that some of them are now. A lot of them are now. But we have to give them the platforms and the spotlight in order to show that. And and then the burden's on myself to work on ways to address that. And I also call on you and our other community members to recommend ways for us to strengthen that dialogue with the NYPD so we can have that confidence.
I think they do need to have more officers on foot, be more engaging with the neighborhood. I feel like back in the day, especially when stop and frisk was out, they patrolled the neighborhood like a war zone instead of just I'm a part of the community and I'm protecting the community. So I would just want them to be more positively engaging within the community.
The thing is that it's hard to find that healthy medium.
Yeah.
It's very hard to find that. So, like I said, presence is really important, being out into the community. But for me, you need to educate the community about the structures of the legal system, teach them about the criminal justice system, teach them about the structure of the police, so they can better understand that. And I think we need to continue to work on ways to strengthen that understanding. Like I said, that's why I said civics is so important.
So important. That is really true. Let's talk about NYCHA. What are some of the things you would like to see NYCHA do better?
Everything. Everything. NYCHA could be better managed. It should not. It could. The situation that it's in now could have been avoided.
How could? If
the federal government.
Everyone should know what NYCHA is. NYCHA is New York
City Housing Authority,
or the projects.
which is a state chartered public benefit corporation. Right. So it's chartered by the state of New York. It's been heavily underfunded by the federal government for years, both in terms of its operating subsidy and on the capital subsidies. Operating subsidy helps the authority. That's the subsidy that makes up the difference between the amount of money the authority takes in versus how much it gives out. It makes up the difference. Government has been heavily underfunded that. Wow. That's the federal government.
I can see that.
So the federal government has failed NYCHA.
NYCHA, okay.
Okay. The state legislature, yes, they have allocated funds in the last few years to NYCHA. It has not been enough, and they needed a sustained revenue source. Now they've tried to talk about privatizing. So first they wanted to start with the sale of land and building private developments on the developments, and then the residents that live in that development would, provided they met the income criteria, the provisions were not properly written in place for them to be able to get access to those buildings. So why should you build on it? Even though it's going to lead to revenue for the building, is the building really going to get all of the revenue? Or has the government instilled a confidence in you, in the citizens, to believe that setup would best serve the interests of that particular development? No.
Nah, they haven't.
Okay, sum it all up. NYCHA needs to do better. They need to have better turnaround time in terms of their tickets. We have developments that have rat infestations. One development in particular, Taft Houses.
And Taft is crazy.
Yeah, Taft has the incinerators. They've had to shut the incinerators in one of or two of the buildings because the rats are crawling up. And now they're crawling into people's apartments now.
That's
on lower floors, like the 7th floor.
That's crazy. Rats on the 7th floor.
Okay,
crazy.
So my whole thing is nobody should have to live like that, and I don't care if it's a building that doesn't have the funding. Find the funding. If you are the government, for something, let me close out this point. The government has failed NYCHA. The state government has failed NYCHA. Federal government has failed NYCHA, and the local government has failed because it hasn't provided the right enforcement and oversight. Make sure that they handle those supply tickets properly, because it is a government property, right?
Yeah.
So the government should represent and handle its property properly.
Yeah, it should.
Very passionate about that issue.
Yeah, the government should have their housing look like that.
Yeah. Handle your house.
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna do a little bit of rapid fire questions.
Okay.
And we're gonna wrap up. So our question. All right, Knicks or Nets?
Knicks.
Knicks. All right. You had a Yankee hat on, so Yankees or Mets?
Both.
Both?
I'm from New York, so I got to show love to both.
To both?
But, I mean, of course, I live in Harlem. I love the Yankees. You know, shout out to the Yankees. But my first baseball game was the Mets.
The Mets? All right.
So I show love to both.
Giants or Jets?
Giants.
Giants. Is it easier to date a woman in Brooklyn or pass a law through city council?
I want to show love to all of our women that are in New York City. And shout out to the women in Brooklyn. I think it's important when you're dating anybody to make sure you have a good connection with them, regardless of where they're from. You're not going to trap me with that one.
Great politician, nigga. Great political answer.
It's great. Would you ever run for mayor one day?
If it was the right time and the right moment and it was best serve the community and I could effectuate the most change.
He's thinking about it. That's what they're mad.
No, what matters is, honestly, what matters is that the people's agenda gets achieved and the public good is advanced on a consistent basis. If we're not doing that, then there's no point of service, honestly.
All right, give me your top 5 rappers from New York.
The Notorious B.I.G.
Okay.
Jay-Z. Nas.
He had a great concert last night. I was there. It was lit. Yeah.
Diplomats.
That's a cheat. It's like 5. It's 3 of them.
I'm gonna throw them all in. Okay.
Dipset.
Dipset. Okay. And I guess we'll say Mobb Deep.
Mobb Deep. All right. Favorite place to eat in New York?
Oh, so many, man. Comes to soul food, Amy Ruth's. But shout out to Sylvia's too, and Jacob's. Sofrito.
Sofrito.
Yeah, that's my spot.
What is something you would like to see done more in the city in the summertime?
A 4-day work week.
A 4-day for all right.
Everybody off on Fridays.
Yeah, he has my vote.
Everybody off on Fridays, and maybe a sales tax holiday where nobody pays sales tax, so they can come with cash and not have to worry about all of that. Because we want to promote people. We want people to spend money, but we want people to have a good time. It needs to be a focus of everybody having a good time again in the city, across the board, and in many different ways within the law.
Okay, I like this guy. So where can they find you, on social media? Where can the people email you if they have any questions and concerns?
Oh, I appreciate that. Yes, so my social media handle is Smith4NY. That's Smith 4 NY, and my email is Smith 4 NYS @gmail.com.
That's a wrap. You've been watching Two Peas in a Pod. I'm Prez, a.k.a. also known as Gift Hip Poppy. You've been watching Two Peas in a Pod, and I'm with
William Smith, District Leader from the 68th Assembly District, East Harlem, El Barrio.
And it's a wrap. All right. Beautiful.